Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been. Will be. How can there not? Just something about those blue skies, high banks, and high speed, all coming together in one perfect race. And it'll be here sooner than you think.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our Tuscaloosa studios as we go through what's a really busy time for Alabama men's and women's basketball, plus Alabama gymnastics. As we start to go over everything that's coming up on the show today, we'll go through our headlines thanks to our friends at RJ Young. They are the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smartboard to go through everything coming up, including our headlines. First things first, we'll hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide men's basketball team, Nate Oats, as he met with the media following the win at Vanderbilt on Tuesday. And then we'll talk about the win against Vanderbilt, plus everything going on with Alabama football and basketball with Nick Kelly, the beat reporter for the Tuscaloosa News, covering Crimson Tide athletics. On Monday night, we had a great show at Baumhower's Victory Grille on Hey Coach, as we were joined first by Kristy Curry as well as Ashley Johnston. Will have their comments coming up about Alabama gymnastics, Crimson Tide home coming up on Friday against Florida. And then speaking of games at home, huge stretch coming up for the Crimson Tide women's basketball team tonight with Texas A&M, Monday with the LSU Tigers. We'll talk about that with head coach Kristy Curry. Other headlines for the Crimson Tide, starting with the men's basketball team. Again, off to such a good start in SEC play. Continued what has been a solid start to the conference action on Tuesday with a 78-66 win against Vanderbilt. Brandon Miller, SEC Freshman of the Week, and then over 30 points next time out against the Commodores. Could see that honor for him coming up once again this season. He's already won it 3 times in a row and 5 times overall. Crimson Tide overall 16-2, now in a 6-0 spot in the SEC, ranked 4th in the nation. They'll try and do something they've not done so far in the Nate Oats era. That's pick up a win at Missouri. That'll be coming up Saturday at 5 p.m. Our radio coverage across the network will begin at 4. How about the women's basketball team? Last Sunday, defeated Ole Miss 63-58, snapped a 2-game losing streak in that series to the Rebels, and a really solid win against Ole Miss, a team that had previously been undefeated so far in the SEC. Now tonight, it's Alabama at home against Texas A&M, a 6 p.m. tip-off. Our radio coverage will start at 5:55 for the Crimson Tide against the Aggies. Alabama 14-4 overall, 3-2 in the SEC. A&M comes into this matchup having a tough season. They've been decimated by injuries in terms of their roster. They're 0-5 so far in the league. Then on Monday night, a team that is undefeated is coming to town. The LSU Tigers off to a perfect start, not only overall this season, but in the SEC. 6 p.m. tip-off should be a lot of fun coming up on Monday for Alabama against LSU. Then, speaking of fun, at Coleman Coliseum, the gymnastics team home Friday night against the Florida Gators. And congratulations in order to Gabby Gladio. She was named the SEC Freshman of the Week, as she is now starting to perform on 3 different events. Could see her in the all-around very soon. Baseball team, they're starting to get their practice going for what's coming up this February, and already in the preseason poll by D1 Baseball, ranked 20th in the nation. So great recognition for Brad Bohannon's squad as we are about a month away from baseball season starting. Also, the soccer team adding a pair of transfers. Congratulations to those 2 young ladies on making their way to Tuscaloosa. More information coming up on RollTide.com. But talking men's basketball, first things first on the show today, Alabama picked up its 6th victory in conference play on Tuesday against Vanderbilt. Here's everything Nate Oats had to say after the win.
I thought our guys really played hard, played well, played together for large parts of the game. You know, in light of the circumstances we were under, I'm really proud of the mental toughness that some of our guys showed. I think we did a pretty good job getting the group together. They did a good job getting themselves together. Had a really good practice yesterday, had a good walkthrough today, and came out here and opened the game well, built up a lead. It would have been nice if we didn't give up the few runs we gave them to make it close. But despite what we've gone through, I think our guys played really well tonight. I didn't see a ton of emotion pre-game necessarily. I did see some guys break down post-game. I think they've been battling some stuff up, and we got a job to do. We got to get to the game. Kind of got to the game, took care of business, and then it's almost like a big relief. Game's over, and we can let out a sigh of relief. But I think I think the guys still need some time. They're going to need a lot of time. I mean, guys have been using the resources with the school, with the counselors. You know, I think more of them will see some counselors tomorrow, but it's a hard situation for the guys to go through. So I thought pregame, you know, I thought guys got themselves locked in, ready to go. Like, it's almost like, let's use basketball as a little bit of a release, if that makes sense. And then I just think post-game it got a little bit more emotional than pregame. I mean, I think we've showed mental toughness in the past. We won at Houston, #1 team in the country. After being down 15 in the second half, we won at Arkansas, one of the toughest places to play. You know, they were picked to be in the top 2 or 3 of the league by about everybody. They got a lot of talent. So we've gone on the road and won in the past. We had a little bit, you know, different circumstances, a lot different circumstances here. It's still a road win. But I thought, you know, I just think our guys got a mentally tough group. They're young, but they're pretty mentally tough. I mean, we were closing with 4 freshmen on the floor for a while there tonight with, you know, Jaden and Brandon. You know, Ryland was in there, Clowney. So I thought, you know, despite the fact they're freshmen, I think we've shown a little mental toughness. I think they take things seriously. They study the game. I think it shows by just how mentally tough they are.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR, and don't miss out on the opportunity to witness the thrill of 4-wide racing at one of NASCAR's most iconic tracks. From the blistering speed on the track to the unparalleled success of access that you have with the Talladega Garage experience, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Be a part of NASCAR's Cup Series return to Talladega Superspeedway on April 23rd. Purchase your tickets today at TalladagaSuperspeedway.com. As we continue on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, we wanted to take a moment to talk not only some Alabama men's basketball, like we just heard from with Nate Oats, but also take a look back at the football season as well, and nobody better to do that with than Nick Kelly of the Tuscaloosa News, who covers Alabama athletics on a daily basis, and he gives us a fresh perspective on Crimson Tide athletics as he joins us now on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Nick, it's great to see you as football season has come to a close. We're right in the middle of what looks to be a historic basketball season. How's everything going for you?
It's been quite a year, quite a couple seasons. Obviously, when football doesn't make the playoff, it's a big deal. It doesn't happen very often. This basketball team, crazy good. So, I mean, this is it's an interesting year. I mean, plenty of things going on.
Well, starting with football, the last time we saw the Crimson Tide in the Superdome taking on in the Sugar Bowl the Kansas State, fell behind early in that game, then came back with all the stars getting to play maybe for the final time in Crimson. Just what were your takeaways from the last time we got to see Alabama football play in 2022?
Yeah, well, they wanted it. I mean, that was the thing. At first, it's like, oh, maybe they didn't handle their preparation the right way. Maybe they didn't have the right mindset for it, especially after that, that Deuce Vaughn, I think it was 88-yard touchdown run. It's like, oh boy, this could be a long day for the Crimson Tide. But then after a few moments, next thing you know, Alabama's off and running. Bryce Young's doing his thing. They're looking sharp. I mean, it was a really strong performance. And frankly, I couldn't help but keep thinking this team probably could have done something in the playoff if they played like they did. Deuce Vaughn touchdown run and on kind of thing. Like after that moment, if they had played like that throughout the season, I think they would have very well been undefeated or close to it and could have done some damage in the playoff. And so, of course, didn't get in the playoff, but overall, the way they were playing in that game against Kansas State, once they shook the cobwebs off, looked really, really sharp and a nice finish to the season.
Such an interesting season for the Crimson Tide with the 2 losses to Tennessee and LSU, but maybe years down the road, when you think back to this season, what are the 2 or 3 moments that are going to stand out in your mind the most?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know if this counts, but Bryce Young leaving Bryant-Denny was a pretty cool moment. I mean, it's not on the field, but I mean, he was on the field, but not during a game, I should say. And that was a pretty cool, I think, just ovation he got, the way he got to go out. I mean, obviously he hadn't made anything official at that point, but I think everyone knew that was it for him at Bryant-Denny. And so really cool how he got sent out. Honestly, I haven't thought about that too much just in terms of a couple moments, but I think I can't help but think of the field stormings, just because those were difficult to wade through to get to post game interviews. So those are memorable, not in a good way for the Crimson Tide, but yeah, I think when you have games like the Texas A&M, the way that finished, the goal line stand there, the Texas game, Will Reichard field goal to win it. I mean, there were some really good moments in some close games. I think more stressful than a lot of Crimson Tide fans would have liked. But great moments are born from great opportunity, as Herb Brooks, the great Minnesotan, would say. So.
Yeah, you definitely need to get that in there. Speaking of the field stormings, did you escape unscathed at Tennessee and LSU? Any bumps or bruises from that time on the field?
I was all right, but man, I had to hop some fences. I had to avoid running into people. I mean, it was stressful. I really enjoyed not having to get through field stormings when it came. I think Ole Miss was the next road game they had where there wasn't one. So selfishly, for what I need to do, it was nice not to have to wade through that.
Well, we're definitely glad you're safe from all of that. As again, football season came to a close, and all throughout November and December, we've been seeing this Alabama basketball team get some impressive victories. That has continued off to a 6-0 start in SEC play. Just where do things stand right now for Nate Oats' team? What's been through a really good start to SEC play, but also a very emotional week?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think that for them, basketball has been something they can turn to in terms of just coming together. But Missouri's on deck. Obviously, I don't say this as an alumni from Missouri, but Missouri's been a tough place for Alabama to play. Nate Oats has not won in Columbia, I believe. So, and that Mizzou arena, I mean, they've got support right now. That's not always been that way. When I was there, there was not many fans because it was a rough time. But I think they'll turn out well for this game. So it's going to be a tough environment for them, but Alabama continues to get through any tough opponent they face. I mean, no matter if it's Arkansas on the road or it's Kentucky, maybe not as tough as we thought, but obviously still a big matchup. I mean, Alabama looks fantastic in that at home. So I think there's just so many things to like about what this basketball team can do in terms of no matter what the matchup is. They just have so many different guys, so much depth. And of course, they have that elite talent, guys like Brandon Miller as well.
Well, speaking of Brandon Miller, you just got to see him play close to home when Alabama played at Vanderbilt, close to his hometown of Antioch, Tennessee. And I know you've been following Brandon closely. I had a great feature on him, a good profile, seeing about his recruitment, really his love for Alabama all throughout his life. Just what did you learn in reporting that story for the Tuscaloosa News?
Yeah, he practically was put in a onesie. His dad, a Crimson Tide onesie, I should say. His dad, from what he can remember, was putting him in some Crimson Tide gear almost from birth. I don't think he had a Crimson Tide bottle, but darn near close to having that. But it was one of those things where, okay, so he grew up an Alabama football fan because his dad played 1 year at UA, and that once his dad went back home to Nashville, that just grew. The fandom for their family grew, and that was what was on TV. And Brandon decided to become a fan. That some of his friends try to get him to become an Oregon fan, try to get him, become fans of other teams. But he's like, no, I like watching a team that wins. So that's what he said. But for him, he grew up a fan of the team, but that's not why he picked Alabama. He told me that relationships with the coaching staff and just the persistence that Nate Oats had in calling him like every day was what made the difference. So it happened to work out that he's now playing for the school that he grew up a fan of. But that's not why he picked it. But it still is kind of fun to see the connections. And just like his dad told me, he didn't try to get Brandon to come to Alabama, but in some ways he kind of did, just by the seeds he was planting throughout Brandon's life to have that script day all over their house.
Well, and now he continues to wear well for the Crimson Tide men's basketball team. And just with his play on the court so far this season, everybody is still putting him at the top of the scouting report. He's still getting results. Just what do you see the rest of the season look like for Brandon Miller?
Just a lot of fun, I think, is what it looks like for him. Of course, there's some nights where teams defend him better than others. We saw that against Arkansas in the first half on the road. But overall, I mean, he finds a way, and he's patient. I mean, that's the thing. Even if he is covered up, even if he's defended well, he's not going to force things. And that's really key, because I think a lot of times you see that where a guy is just used to scoring and he's going to force things. He's okay not forcing things. And if teams are going to try to defend him that much, Alabama can turn to other guys. And now if other guys aren't playing well, they're not shooting well, then that can be difficult. But Alabama also has good defense to fall back on. So that's why this team is just so good. Because what do you do against them? And if you try to take something away, they'll find another way to succeed. And so Nate Oats' squad is really in a good spot in terms of how they can handle just about anything any team throws their way.
So again, Alabama basketball in the middle of SEC play. Football, of course, a lot of off-season storylines. But just kind of what do you and Chase Goodbread with the Tuscaloosa News keep an eye on as we move through the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think it's seeing how this basketball team continues. I mean, it's not easy to stay at the top of the SEC when you are kind of the target, or you have that target. And it was just frankly tough to win the SEC in general. I mean, that Tennessee game is one I've circled coming up in February in Knoxville. So that should be a fun one, and probably could be for the SEC, frankly. So I think that's seeing how this team sustains or doesn't sustain success is going to be what I'm watching for. In football, all kinds of transition right now. I mean, that's the thing. We saw that with Pete Golding leaving for Ole Miss. Of course, questions as to what's next at offensive coordinator for Alabama with Bill O'Brien's contract expiring at the end of February. So all kinds of just transition that, frankly, a lot of it needs to happen because they didn't meet the standard that they have set. And I think that there's some changes that that need to be made, and I think are recognized need to be made, but also they don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, they didn't just have a 500 season. They had 2 losses that were at the end of these games. So it's not that they're far away. And I mean, heck, Nick Saban just signed the #1 recruiting class for 2023 as well. So the talent's still there. But it's making tweaks, it's making adjustments. And I think that that's healthy to do. It's important to do. And I think we're going to continue seeing that over the next few weeks.
Nick Kelly, we look forward to reading your coverage of Alabama athletics in the Tuscaloosa News. Just thank you for joining us on the Crimson Tide Sports Network today. Thank you.
Hey, great to be with you, Roger. Thanks so much.
Just take a minute. Look around you. There's history being made. Has been, will be, and it'll be here sooner than you think.
Fun conversation with Nick Kelly. Check out his work online on the Tuscaloosa News and in the daily paper. We really appreciate him for his insights of Alabama athletics. Rest of the show, we will throw back to Monday night with what we had during a very busy edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alfa Insurance at Baumhower's Victory Grille here in Tuscaloosa. And we first of all talked gymnastics with the head coach of the Crimson Tide gymnastics squad, Ashley Johnston. Her team off to a really good start. Now happy to be back at home coming up Friday night, taking on the Florida Gators. So we'll look back to the first 2 wins for Alabama, plus what's ahead with Alabama gymnastics head coach Ashley Johnston.
Now please be joined by head gymnastics coach at the University of Alabama, Ashley Johnston.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Good ovation for you, as of course, Alabama, we love winners, and so far your team, bunch of winners. Off to a 2-0 start. What have you liked about the start to the season?
You know, so far as a head coach, I'm undefeated, so I'm pretty happy about that start so far. The team has done a great job so far. We continue to learn new lessons along the way, continue to grow, and I'm really pleased with where we're at, and we're excited for this upcoming meet.
The last time we had you on the show, you were getting ready for the December showcase, even before the January 6th meet that you had against Michigan State as the Crimson Tide started the year with a win. Just how are you doing in those final moments before your first meet as a head coach and getting to see the Crimson Tide hit the mat?
You know, our team is really prepared, and so I feel calm, I feel composed, I feel confident going into the meet because our girls know what to do. They have a good mental preparation system, they are physically prepared, and so ultimately it's just trusting them that they know what to do in those moments, and I've really been enjoying it.
What led to the good results that night? The second highest score for a season opener in program history for Alabama against Michigan State.
You know, our focus for the first meet was all about committing to the approach, and we spend a lot of time on just fine-tuning the little details, and so we call it mental choreography, where really they have key words that go along with every skill that they do in their routines, and so that was our focus, was really committing to that, making sure that they went for it 100%, and I feel like they did that, and that's really what led to the good results. They didn't let nerves get the best of them, they didn't let those, first meet jitters define them, but they stayed in control of the things that they could control, and that's what led to a good outcome. And
cheering on for one another, I'm sure you had to love seeing that also this past week at Arkansas.
Yeah, the camaraderie piece is huge, and a lot of that, you can't always force that. That's something that has to come from within the team, and I think this team has done a really good job of that. We've got 6 seniors, we've got 6 freshmen, 3 and 3 in our sophomore and junior class, and they've really bonded together, and they really lean on each other and know each other's strengths, so they're able to lead in a lot of different ways.
So again, Alabama gymnastics off to a really good start, 2-0 with wins against Michigan State and Arkansas. We'll talk about a few standout performers for you, starting with Luisa Blanco. She has won now an event title on 3 out of 4 events so far this season. You got to be pleased with her results.
Yeah, Louisa is such a rock star. You know, she continues to just be this heart, this passion for the team that drives everybody to up their standard and just be excellent in every area. And so we really lean on her to just kind of step up and be that heartbeat for the team. And she does that time and time again. And I'm really proud of what she's done so far.
And already a very good start from Makari Doggett. What's led to her good results?
It's really exciting. You know, Makari has gotten back in the all-around at that first meet of the year, and then this past weekend did 3 events and did a great job. Had to adapt in a couple areas, had a little bit of a mistake, but recovered just incredibly well. And so I'm really proud of the growth that she's shown this year. I feel like she's really happy out there competing, and it's just cool to see that smile light up the arena.
So those are 2 names that Alabama fans are familiar with, Luisa Blanco and Makari Doggett. But how about the freshman debuts we've already seen, starting with Gabby so far this year?
Yeah, Gabby, I'm sure everybody can see by now, she's got some big, powerful, dynamic gymnastics, and that's something that I would say Alabama Gymnastics has been known for, is having standout tumblers, standout vaulters, people that, you know, you just turn and see them across the room, and they're that kind of magnetic, and I feel like Gabby encompasses what it looks like to be an Alabama gymnast.
Yeah, 9'9", her first ever college floor routine. Also, we've seen her the vault, the balance beam, floor exercise. So where is she most comfortable, you feel like?
Where is she most comfortable? Gosh, she is just comfortable being out there, you know, being out in that arena, getting to perform in front of a crowd. You know, she's been dreaming of being an Alabama gymnast for a really long time, and so it's neat to see her face just light up when she gets to be out there in front of our crowd. And she's close to competing on bars too. She's doing everything it takes. She's putting the work in, and so I wouldn't be surprised if she gets out there soon too.
So we maybe could see that in the next few weeks.
Yep. You'll have to come show up on Friday nights to find out.
And the Crimson Tide coming up at home this week against the Florida Gators. You got to be excited to get back inside Coleman Coliseum, Coach.
Oh yeah. There's just nothing like a home meet, what that feels like in Coleman Coliseum, you know, having the Florida Gators come in. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the country, loaded with talent, and so it's going to be a great matchup. It's a great time for our fans to come out and watch it in person. We're going to need every single person there cheering us on, because it will likely come down to the last event, and hopefully it's a really close meet.
What kind of mindset do you want to see from the team as they prepare for Friday night?
You know, this week, I want to see them unleash. I feel like we've done a good job of working on the details, kind of knowing what goes into creating their peak performance. And now it's about just going out there and doing it. And I think we've gotten close meet by meet. I would say our Arkansas warm-up was phenomenal. And then when we came back around to compete, we had a little bit of nerves get in the way. And so this week, I want to see them kind of warm up the way they did at Arkansas, but then unleash and really just let themselves be free out there and do what they've been doing in training for these last few weeks of preparation.
And I know fans are enjoying coming to Coleman Coliseum to see you perform, maybe watching on the SEC Network if the team's on the road. But then again, the Bama Gymnastics social media accounts, a great way to kind of follow the journey of this season. You guys are having a lot of fun with that.
We really are. One of our primary goals is to connect, and that means to connect with our athletes, to connect with our fans, to connect with our community. And so we enjoy just getting to show the community what it's like to be in our practice, what it's like to be on the road with us, and just kind of to see the ins and outs of what it's like to be on the Alabama Gymnastics team.
Well, we're really proud of the start you've had so far this season, off to a 2-0 start, hosting Florida this Friday. Coach Johnston, just thank you for joining us so much tonight here on Hey Coach. Really enjoyed the visit. Best of luck moving forward. Roll Tide.
Thank you so much. Roll Tide.
That's the gymnastics coach here at the University of Alabama, Ashley Johnston. Her comments ahead of Alabama's Friday meet against the Florida Gators here in Tuscaloosa.
Ashley Johnston off to a 2-0 start. Hopefully tomorrow it becomes 3-0 as Alabama hosts the Florida Gators. Certainly hope to see a huge crowd at Coleman Coliseum, not only tomorrow for gymnastics, but later tonight for women's basketball. The Alabama Crimson Tide women's basketball team back at home this evening, plus Monday night at 6 p.m. against LSU. Tonight's game is against Texas A&M, and joining us as well on Monday's edition of Hey Coach, presented by Alfa Insurance, Kristy Curry joined us at Baumhower's to talk about the Ole Miss victory, plus what's coming ahead tonight for Alabama against Texas A&M.
Roll Tide, Coach.
Roll Tide. Good to see everybody.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you here and back in Tuscaloosa after a little bit of time on the road, but that's certainly okay when we get wins at Auburn and then yesterday at Ole Miss.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be good to be home because I think we've been on the road 3 weekends, so we're excited for our players, our families, and just the opportunity to defend our home court on a weekend is. It seems like it hadn't happened in a while, so but big wins. I love our kids' approach, and But like I told them last night, we just got to hit the reset button because what's in front of us is so important. And if we can build off the past couple of weeks, it's going to be really special moving forward.
So, and again, for fans that may not realize that Ole Miss had gotten off to a great start this year. 5-0 in the SEC. They had been undefeated at home. They were also on a 9-game winning streak going into yesterday, and they were able to get off to a good start.
I don't think people understand, especially without our 2 leading scorers, it was one of those really special wins. And for our players to step up and to go into an environment, that's the best Ole Miss crowd I think I've ever seen in my time in the SEC. It was, oh man, it was wild, wasn't it, Roger? It was loud and rowdy, and their band was really into it, but a huge crowd, and I hope that's what our players can come home to this weekend, that kind of environment. I think when you look back on this season, that's going to be a critical win and really a big-time Quadrant 1 resume win. As we head into tomorrow, it's a different routine for us. We'll practice a little later due to some classes, and that's the first time we've done this on a Tuesday. And then we'll go into our regular routine of preparation for a really good A&M team. The record's deceiving. It's where they've lost a lot of close ones, and we certainly don't want to be the one that they get on track with.
You mentioned preparation. I know one of the things that helped out last week, the practice guys are back in town since school has started.
Amazing. And just to see them prepare us, Ole Miss was really had great size on the perimeter, a lot of athleticism, and then we're down to 8. All practice days we had 8 players. So what they do for our program and really preparing us and allowing us to make sure that our players don't get too much rep, and it's really good for us. So man, those guys, I know they were excited yesterday, and several of them came to Auburn the weekend before. They're such a critical part of our preparation and our family and our togetherness, and they just bring a lot of energy. It's like a lot of big brothers for our players. It's really fun to watch their relationships.
And were most of them really good high school players? They're very active in intramurals, or basically anytime they get on the court, they're going to find their way on the court.
They do. I mean, they are so talented. There's some of those young men that played at a really high level in high school and just decided to go ahead and focus on their education and not play. And man, I sometimes have to tell them to tone down. They can really shoot it. They can get to the rim. They bring great size and shot blocking ability. So, on our ability, we've really tried to improve our finishes at the rim, and I think you saw that yesterday over some great size in the middle, and our guys really put us in game-like positions. For just something simple as that really makes a big difference.
Now, who on your staff coaches them up to get them ready for
practice? It's each scout coach is responsible for preparing the guys and communicating with them, and we try to spend a little time with them throughout practice and ahead of practice, putting us in a position to kind of simulate, even though, like I say, they're really good. Like our practice players would beat a lot of teams in the SEC, so we know as hard as practice is, it's going to prepare us for games.
We're talking Crimson Tide women's basketball after the comeback win yesterday against Ole Miss. And, Coach, your team was trailing 17-9 at the end of the first quarter, but then in the second quarter, you got a lot of scoring from one player in particular, Sarah Ashley Barker, with 7 points that quarter, and also she had that toughness, it seemed like, as well, you needed to have.
Yeah, she really did. I mean, she just stepped up and made big plays, and I think both sides of the ball. We just felt like if we could stick with the game plan, there's a certain tendency that if you understand, it's so critical to each personnel. And thought she did a really good job defensively on Madison Scott too. It was a big day for Sarah Ashley, and she just exudes with confidence, and it just feeds over to our team. And she's becoming a really big vocal leader for us. And she's not an action leader, but she don't hesitate to step up and say the hard thing. And I think that's really unique when you have honest leadership with a lot of energy and effort. That she can back that up with. So excited. Boy, that was a big 3, too, right in front of you. It was really direct line kind of right in front of us. So she just made play after play, and again, just gives our team a lot of confidence.
Speaking of direct line, down there in the lobby, we have a picture of Jay Barker, of course, who's her father, who's quarterback of the 1992 national champion Crimson Tide. And we got to see on a couple of baseline plays her show off her throwing arm with a couple of great ones down the court. What can you tell us about some of the plays you guys have worked on? Don't give away too many secrets, but we really like seeing her show her throwing arm yesterday.
We had scouted that, and we'd seen it 3 times in a previous film that a team had gotten, and then we knew, that's something people don't think about. You often in practice try to find that deep ball throw in, and you work on those things. But man, she does. She has an arm. And if I was playing flag football, but she's not going to play, I would pick her to be my quarterback because she has a phenomenal arm and she's just so physical with it. So, but perfect position, I thought, where she placed him. Didn't you think there were 2 really good ones?
Very good, especially
I
that
thought
one
it was really good.
deny,
no doubt. But she has a great touch with the ball, and I bet her dad would have been proud yesterday. Her brothers, too. You know, she has a brother that's a quarterback at UAB, and then her other brother is an offensive analyst for football. So do have a big football background. I bet they were proud yesterday.
Yeah, some really great passes by her. She led the way with 16 points for Alabama. And then Loyal McQueen, first time she's been in the starting lineup, she delivers 14 points.
Yeah, she stepped up. You know, she was you could tell she was a little nervous early, and she just needed to kind of take a deep breath. And we just kept telling her, keep shooting the ball, Loyal, keep shooting the ball. And she got it off the rim a couple of times really hard, you know, but at the end of the day, she just started finding her touch down the stretch. And if she didn't score it, Jada was going to be there to kind of put it back in, and made big play after big play. And just, you know, Loyal's a really special player and has a really special future. And I tell you, that one pull-up she had there, we want to see that more when they're taking away the rim, that counter move. She's starting to develop a lot of confidence. She's in the gym all the time getting shots up. It's the work Loyal puts in, and it was big yesterday. We're proud of her, all of them. But her and I think Loyal and Sarah Ashley just made big play after big play. And, you know, they embrace that opportunity, and that's hard to teach. I think that just comes with a lot of experience, and those two really brought it yesterday.
We talked about it earlier, Coach. A lot of time on the road for the Crimson Tide women's basketball team. You got to be fired up that you're back at home this week, starting Thursday against Texas A&M.
Yeah, we're really excited. You know, we've got a couple of ticket promos. You know, use your LSU ticket from the men's game and get in free. And then we have, you know, recognizing our students. It's going to be a really great night, so hope everybody will come out. This team deserves it, you know, with what the environment was yesterday, and we need to really work for everyone to come out the next two games. LSU's 18-0, you know, so maybe 19-0 by the time we see them. So I think ranked number 3 this week in the AP poll. So 2 really big home games where we need Bama Nation to show up and support.
Yes, make sure you are at Coleman Coliseum tonight. Tickets extremely affordable on RolledTide.com. We want to see you there tonight as well as on Monday night when Alabama hosts LSU. But a great opportunity for the Crimson Tide this evening against Texas A&M to get another win in SEC play. That would put Alabama at 4-2 to start conference action. A really strong place to be in. So like Coach Curry mentioned, we want to see a huge crowd, a hostile crowd. If you're there, be loud. Yell Roll Tide at the top of your lungs. Sing Yay Alabama. Hopefully sing Rammer Jammer after the ball game. That was certainly be good, but we can't wait to be inside Coleman tonight for Alabama against Texas A&M. That is going to be our first event, and what's coming up the rest of the weekend is it's time for our Wickles Weekend Update, brought to you by Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. Check them out online at WicklesPickles.com. Let's see what else is coming up on the Crimson Tide Sports Network this weekend. Well, as I mentioned, we will have women's basketball against the Aggies tonight starting at 6 o'clock, and we will have a courtside cam available for that matchup, and we will be streaming live starting at 5:55 with our pregame coverage of Alabama against Texas A&M. Make sure on Friday you check out the Nate Oats television show shown around the state as well as on demand on the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel. Then we will also have on Saturday, speaking of men's basketball and Nate Oats, we will have men's basketball at Missouri. Alabama trying to pick up a win at Mizzou for the first time under the direction of head coach Nate Oats. Airtime is 4 o'clock for that 5 p.m. tip-off at Mizzou Arena. Then on Sunday, we typically have women's basketball, but that game is being moved to Monday night to be on television against LSU, coming up at 6 o'clock. Also on Monday at 6, we will have Hey Coach, so make sure on Sunday, your way to interact with the Crimson Tide, check out another edition of Tide TV This Week. This week hosted by Kinsey Hughes and Delaney Jones. Should be an outstanding edition of Tide TV This Week as part of your coverage for the weekend. Again, next week we will have women's basketball against LSU. Hey Coach coming up from 6 to 7. And for this show, Crimson Drive, we will return next Thursday at 2 p.m. right back here on all CTSN social media outlets. Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR. You know the NASCAR Cup Series does return to Talladega this spring. Be there and experience the energy, the excitement, and the power as the drivers battle it out at the Talladega Superspeedway on April 23rd. Lock in your tickets today at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. It's going to wrap up this week's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Certainly thank all of you for joining us. Thanks as well to the guests that we had from Hey Coach on Monday, Ashley Johnston and Kristy Curry. Thanks as well to Nick Kelly of the Tuscaloosa News for joining us to give his thoughts on Alabama football and men's basketball. Thanks especially to our producer, Ethan Karaman, putting this show together. And again, thanks to all of you for watching. Now let's enjoy some Crimson Tide athletics this weekend. Hopefully we'll see you at Coleman Coliseum for Alabama women's basketball and gymnastics over the next 2 nights. Until then, this is Roger Hoover signing off on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Good afternoon and Roll Tide.